Monday special of your daily source for fantasy hockey news focuses on the top waiver wire targets that you need this week on the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Mondays in the fantasy game are always super critical, and that is exactly why you're tuned and tapped right back into your daily source for fantasy hockey and betting breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Shout out to the everydayers, holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. We're here Monday through Friday, wherever you find your favorite content. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and get started with 200 bones in bonus bets, guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Mr. Roden, I don't know about you, but the hockey action over the weekend has me all kinds of fired up, even though I am feeling a little under the weather. I'm feeling in fine form for this fantasy fire. A whole bunch of Fs from your boy. I got a number of targets that I want to talk about. I honestly thought, looking at this past weekend of performances, I saw 8 or 9 names that jumped off the page for me. I honed it in. I got a couple of forwards, a D-man, and a goalie, 5 players, and of course, Monday's same-game parlays. Over to you, my friend. Who you looking at and why?
Terrific weekend for in the National Hockey League. Lots of players to talk about on today's waiver wire targets. I also had trouble condensing this down to a 4-person list. I have 4 or 5 guys on the honorable mentions list that I'll wait till the end of this episode, right before we do big time bets, just to mention their names. But I've got 4 guys I want to talk about. Okay. Number 1, I believe you and I both have him on this list. It has to be Tom Wilson from the Washington Capitals. He has turned himself into an absolute gamer this season. I don't know what kind of work he was putting into the offseason, but man, oh man, has he come this season with a vengeance. 5 goals for Tom Wilson. Would not expect this hot start from the Banger League beauty that we've talked about before. 5 goals, 6 points, 12 shots, 7 blocks, and 13 hits on the season so far. He's filling out all the peripheral categories, 1 power play goal as well. He is shooting at a whopping 41% right now. It's absolutely incredible. We know that's going to drop down significantly because he's never been higher than 19%. I believe in his career, but he's getting the most time on ice out of his career right now, over 18 minutes, maybe over 19 minutes actually for Tom Wilson. And the Washington Capitals have 3 games this week. They play a back-to-back against the Philadelphia Flyers, and then a game against the Tampa Bay Lightning at the end of the week. So I think this is a great week to stream Tom Wilson. He's owned at 40% in both ESPN and Yahoo fantasy formats. And this is a great opportunity. You know, the Washington Capitals and Philadelphia Flyers go head to head. They get after it physically, offensively, and everything in between. And the same can be said against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I think this is a great opportunity to go pick him up if he's available in your league.
The Washington Capitals have just reeled off 3 straight victories. And I'm kind of liking the chemistry that he's showing right now with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Connor McMichael on that second line. I mentioned Connor McMichael, I think, a number of times in the offseason. He's already starting to chip in. And what I like the most about Tom Wilson, aside from he's going to continue to bring those peripherals, as long as he stays hot with the point production, you got to be looking at him because you're going to get the pims and the hits. He's going to go off and probably snap on someone and get you 16 penalty minutes in one game. He's that kind of player, and when he's clicking offensively, he's a darling for waiver wires. And the fact that he is also getting power play 1 time on a pretty good power play unit, Dylan Strome, PLD, Carlson, and Ovi, I like it even more, Steele. He's on my list as well. I have the ownership numbers here, and then we can move on. 58% on Fantrax, 41 on Yahoo, and 39 on ESPN. So most likely he's out there in your league. So is a player that I've talked about already. I got him on my Keeper Dynasty team. I drafted him this year. Shout out to Troy and the Vape God. The Blue Jackets aren't looking too bad, Steele. And I looked into these numbers, just outside the top 10 in the power play, just outside the top 10 in goals for. I know it's only a handful of games. Igor Chinnikov on the top line with Marchenko and Monahan right now. He is lighting it up so far early in the season. Steal 3 goals, 4 assists, +5, 17 shots on net, and a game winner, eating almost 20 minutes a night per ice time. I'm really liking this player.
Yeah, there's a lot to like from the Columbus Blue Jackets so far early this season. We've seen some stepping out and some bright spots from Kent Johnson, Chinnikov as well. Sean Monahan has 5 points so far in his first season with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And we know, again, it's going to be an emotional time, but they're off to a great start so far. Like you said, they can continue chipping away. We're still waiting for that outbreak from Adam Fantilli. He hasn't done a lot offensively so far in the first 5 games for the Columbus Blue Jackets, but we're waiting for that. And if he can get going, they've got some great opportunity. I've got 2 guys. I'll quickly just mention them right now, and then we'll get to the break. But they come from the same team, so I'm going to talk about them at the same time. Paul Cotter is going to get mentioned once again in back-to-back waiver wire Mondays. I'm also throwing Erik Haula in the mix for this upcoming week as well. Second line left winger and Paul Cotter, third line center from with Erik Haula right now. Both guys are just getting under 14 minutes of average ice time, but they're making the most and taking advantage of every single second they're on the ice, especially for Paul Cotter right now. He's playing on that second line with guys like Nico Hischier, Timo Meier, sometimes with Jack Hughes. Again, not getting as much ice time as them, but when he's playing with them, he's elevating his game. He's having that expectation to be in the right areas, to shoot the puck on net, to showcase his skill set that he does have in his bag. So I really like Paul Cotter this weekend because he's filling out all those peripheral categories as well. Banger League beauty. He's bringing the physicality. He's getting the pucks on net, and he's owned right now at 21%. Erik Haula, he also has 6 points in his first 8 games for the New Jersey Devils. Great third line. All lines are clicking right now for the Devils. Stefan Nason, Erik Haula on that third line together. They're getting it done right now. 4 games this upcoming week for the New Jersey Devils: Tampa Bay Lightning, Detroit Red Wings, New York Islanders, and the Anaheim Ducks. So a very advantageous schedule. Those 3 later games, not the one starting off with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but very advantageous games for this offensive group to start going full throttle.
That Devils team is going to be hard to deal with once they get Luke Hughes back and they continue to roll balanced lines. They're going to knock on the door in that Metro Division steal. We all kind of saw it coming after the offseason that Tommy Fitz in the front office had for this Devils club. Just, you brought up the schedule. I did want to say about Chinnikov, only 2 games this week for the Blue Jackets, but it's more of a long-term investment for me with Chinnikov. He's a young player who's already looking comfortable and forming good chemistry on the top line. Just wanted to close that thought out. We got a few more players we want to talk about. We got big-time bets coming up at the end of the episode. Only 1 game on the board, but it's same-game parlay o'clock, baby. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Driven by the search for better, and when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data. A matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Right now, listeners of our show get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about it on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. So thank you so much for all of that. We're going to show the love every single Monday, every single episode, especially Mondays for waiver wire targets for this upcoming week. Over to you, my friend.
Thank you.
You got a young defenseman on your list who has been pretty great so far. Obviously, some big opportunity with the LA Kings. Kind of a slow start for them, honestly, from what I expected. But let's talk about Brandt Clark real quick because he has been very good for the LA Kings so far.
This is a player that I believe played for the Barrie Colts, lit up the OHL. He's got that little bit of sandpaper in him too. He doesn't shy away from mixing it up. So I love that you get a little bit of peripheral love with my boy Brandt Clark. And this is another player that I mentioned all the way in the lead up to the draft, or a draft time, I guess, once we saw Doughty go down in the preseason. Yeah, that's such an important piece to the success of this club overall. And I'm not saying that's just the be all and end all of their struggles, but that's there. This is a young, relatively shallow blue line. However, it's meant good things for Brandt Clark. 4 points, 4 assists. He's chipping in with the PIMs, couple shots on net. The ice time is starting to creep. I really do think that if he can continue to earn his coach's trust, because he is still only 21, he's making some mistakes. If he can tighten that up a little bit, Steele, these are all kind of long-term plays for me, these players that I'm looking at. Yeah, Brandt Clark right now, I like him because he does have 4 points. 3 games this week. They got the Sharks, they got Utah and Vegas. Bit of a mixed bag there. However, the peripheral angle, and he's playing top power play unit. Those two things cannot be overlooked, and say what you will about the Kings, they can score goals at the very least. So that offensive side, I really like Brandt Clark. 76% on Yahoo, up big time, on Fantrax. 31 on Yahoo, 20 on ESPN. Other than Fantrax, he's out there in your league most likely. Go take a look at him if you need some blue line love.
Well, that's perfect with my player that I'm looking at next, because I'm looking at Oliver Ekman-Larsson of the Toronto Maple Leafs, guys who, again, sort of rostered at the same position right now. OEL is rostered at 38% on Yahoo. He's up 20% from the last week. So he's being looked at and he's being added very quickly. So that's why I need to mention him right now. He's been absolutely terrific so far this season for the Maple Leafs. And I got to show some love to Paul Maurice, because Paul Maurice revitalized and jump-started OEL's career after just 1 year in Florida. He's 33, 34 years old. He was playing a soft game. Paul Maurice got him headed in the right direction. He's more physical. He's more gritty. He's hard to play against in front of the blue paint, in the corners. He's battling, and he's on that top power play unit for the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. So he's showing us that he's got a lot left in the tank. I've really liked him in the first 5 games so far. He's helping on both sides of the ice. Like I said, setting up his teammates, helping them have those scoring opportunities, quarterbacking that top power play unit. He's getting pucks through bodies onto the net for looking for those rebounds and setting up those top tier players like Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. He's got 4 assists on the season, 17 shots, 6 blocks, and 8 hits. The Maple Leafs also have 4 games this upcoming week: Tampa Bay Lightning, Columbus Blue Jackets, St. Louis Blues, and the Boston Bruins. So I really like Oliver. Yeah, mixed bag of both, hard competition and some softer competition in the middle there. But I really like Oliver Ekman-Larsson's value and his volume going into this week for 4 games on the schedule.
Obviously, the Leafs took a lot of heat for paying a lot of money and term to 2 guys in their 30s with a lot of miles on their body.
Yeah.
But right now it's looking good, and who cares about the money when it's succeeding? And that's one of those angles that, that's not a fantasy side of things that you always cover, but right now it's working out for the Leafs. I know they kind of got dealt with by the Rangers. Shesterkin is absolutely lights out right now.
Two empty netters.
Yeah, but I'm just kind of saying, I saw that one coming a little bit. Like, I don't fault the Leafs for their performance there. Game could have gone, I think, their way with a couple of points in there. Anyway, we're not breaking down the Leafs game here. I love that you're looking at OEL. Got to be done, because the Leafs are going to get theirs at the offensive end. Didn't happen on Saturday. It will this week with 4 games. Love it. Speaking of offensive bump, how about another player that I'm looking at long-term, and we mentioned in the lead up to the draft as a sleeper, Casey Middlestat. And I know you'll back me up on this one, Steele. You don't get this guy for the peripherals. You add him to your team if you need an offensive jolt, and he's doing just that. 4 goals, 5 points in 5 games. What's really attractive to me, Steele? 2 things. His career ice time coming into this season, 15 minutes. He's playing over 21 minutes of ice time per night right now. I know the Avs are having their struggles offensively. I'm not concerned about this club at all, and that's why you look at Middlestat. I'll bring up one more other fact. He is on the top power play unit with a couple of guys named McKinnon and Rantanen, and that's a full stop moment. You got to go out there and take a look at Middlestat this week. 3 games. Utah, Sens, and Seattle. I like all 3 of those games for Colorado in terms of offense. 66 on Yahoo, 66 on Fantrax, 32 on Yahoo, and up 25% in 6 days on ESPN to 42% Steele. I'm really liking Middlestat this week.
Yeah, and that goes very well with this guy I want to talk about on the honorable mentions list. I'll get to him very quickly, and then we'll get over to break. I guess we got a few more minutes. I can talk about a few other guys as well. I'll talk about this one real quick.
I got one more player as well.
Ross Colton from the Colorado Avalanche as well. Him and Casey Middlestat have been the only 2 guys who have been helping with the secondary scoring right now. 4 goals, 1 assist, for Ross Colton in 5 games played so far this season. 18 hits, 18 shots. He's filling out those peripheral categories. He's playing with Mikko Rantanen on that second line as well. So that's helping his value right now in fantasy league. So I wanted to mention Ross Colton. I also want to mention Logan Stankoven as well. He has been spectacular for the Dallas Stars. 6 games in so far. He has 7 points, all of them being assists. He's showing his playmaking ability. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the young man in Dallas right now. Before I hand it back over to you, my last 2 honorable mentions. We've talked about them at length over the offseason. We talked about them last week on Waiver Wire Monday. Sam Bennett and Anton Lundell need to be targeted and added onto your roster right now. 8 points and 15 points combined for both Sam Bennett and Anton Lundell. They're filling out all the peripheral categories. Sam Bennett has been so overlooked so far this season. Over 20 shots, over 15 hits. He's got the blocks in there as well. He is doing it all over the ice right now. So Sam Bennett and both Sam Bennett and Anton Lundell need to be added this upcoming week for long-term purposes as well.
I brought it up a few times that I thought Anton Lundell was going to take that second line center spot this year. Bill Zito is invested into this player, and he has all the tools to be a top 6 forward, and he's proving it right now. So sometimes these angles, Steele, they make us look good. Sometimes they don't make us look so good, but right now we're cooking. We'll get to bets in a hot second. I got one more player, and I think this might be the sneakiest one on the docket here. But from what I've seen the last couple of games from Kevin Lankinen, it needs to be noted. The goaltender in 3 starts this year, Steele, he's rocking a save percentage. Like, that's something crooked. I'm just bringing it up here right now. But with Artur Shilov struggling, and we don't know when Demko's back, this is Rick Tockett's guy right now. He's got a .953 save percentage, 1.28 goals against. He's 2-0-1, and he just shut out the Flyers and beat the Florida Panthers the previous night. I'm looking at Kevin Lankinen all day. Look, goaltender in his career, 47, 43, and 13, .906 save percentage, 3.02 goals against average. He was playing on the Chicago Blackhawks and had a couple of rough years. Otherwise, he's been a pretty capable backup. And right now, almost by default, he's going to be the guy in Vancouver. That doesn't happen all the time. You need a goalie. Hit the waiver wire. Take a look at Lankinen. I'm really liking him right now. Only 2 games this week against the Hawks and the Pens, but another long-term investment that I think for now, at least in the foreseeable future, he's the guy. 33% on Fantrax, 25 Yahoo, 7 on ESPN. Have a look at Lankinen this week.
Even with those 2 games, those are very advantageous games against the Blackhawks and the Pittsburgh Penguins, who can sometimes struggle. So Kevin Lankinen getting after it so far for the Vancouver Canucks early on in the season. We're going to come back after the break. 1 game on the schedule for Monday. We've got same game parlays for big time bets, all of that and more coming up next. But first, this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. That's where you should go place your bets for Monday's same game parlay. Hey, NFL fans out there, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review, Flip, and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. That's why we always show you all the love and support throughout the episodes, especially at the end of the episodes with big time bets. We're trying to make some money out here. We're trying to get some money in your pockets as well. We're coming hot and heavy with the same game parlay because we kind of have to. Only one game on the schedule. Over to you, my friend, because, hey, man, you're getting after it this season. You're getting after it with the picks. I want to see what you're going with. I know it's the same game parlay, but I want to see what you're thinking, what you're looking at, because I need some assistance.
The confidence is teeming right now, Steele. I'm feeling myself a little bit. You know, the fall off could be very real, but for now, we're going to take this heater and we're going to run with it. And once again, I'm feeling my pick. So I believe I got to confirm. I got to update. We're recording early. I got to update the records up until Monday. I think I'm sitting at something like 14-4 to start the year, something like that, because I do 6 picks on Saturday for Dauber. Anyway, loving my 3 picks again. First pick. Austin Matthews had 9 shots on goal against the New York Rangers, a good defensive team. The night before, 4, but the night before that, 8. He is absolutely feeling it right now. I think the goals are going to come. but I'm looking at the shot total. Give me Austin Matthews, 5+ shots. Feeling that one in a very big way. He's going to get his against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Second one. I don't know if you've heard about this guy named Nikita Kucherov. Having a pretty good start to the season, and I looked into his numbers against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and my tab's struggling right now, but it was something like 50 points in around 40 games. He's been lighting it up, and it's 35 assists in his career in the regular season against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think he goes back to what he does best, and that's creating for his teammates, even though he's been shooting the lights out. I like the Kucherov anytime assist along with my lock of the night, the over 5.5. I'm going to tease it down just because of how good defensively, for the most part, that the Leafs have looked. I like a high-scoring game in this one. I see 4-3 written all over it. Both teams going to go off in a really good Atlantic Division showdown. So Matthews, 5+ shots. Cooch, anytime assist, and the lock of the night, the over 5.5 steal. And why? The last 2 games between these two teams have produced 16 total goals. So hit me with the over 5.5 as my lock of the night.
Loving the picks. I've got one of those player props in mind as well. And I'll start off with that. Nikita Kucherov, anytime assist. He has been absolutely hot. I believe he actually has a goal in every single game so far this season, too. So you could hammer the anytime goal, but he is a playmaker, and those career stats against the Toronto Maple Leafs prove why he is one of the best playmakers in the game. First pick of the night, Nikita Kucherov, anytime assist. I'm going to the other side, looking at the other playmaker for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mitch Marner, anytime assist as well. He's been very solid so far to start off the season. I think, like you said, this is going to be a back and forth matchup. Both offensive superstars going after it. We're going to see Jake Gensel in Toronto in a Tampa Bay Lightning uniform for the first time as well. I'm liking this matchup offensively. Nikita Kucherov, anytime assist. Marner, anytime assist. And that goes with my lock of the night. William Nylander, anytime goal is my lock of the night. I'm liking his play as well so far early on in the season. I think just like Austin Matthews, he's going to get some opportunity. He's going to continue shooting the biscuit on net. And I'm looking for him to score on that power play unit. So I'm going with the 3 player props for the same game parlay on Monday night.
Extra spicy. In his career of 35 regular season games, Nikita Kucherov has 44 points, including 25 dimes. So I just wanted to make sure that I confirmed that, because those are good numbers, Steele. He lights it up against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's just one of those squads that he likes to play against, and that might be bad news for Anthony Stolarz. I've been calling him Stolarz, and now I'm quite clear that it's Stolarz. So I hope that doesn't happen for, all the colors behind me. However, loving our same game parlays. Tap into the rest of the week. We got bets every single night.
Bets every single night. Tuesday has a monster board of games, so we're going to be getting after it on Tuesday night. Make sure you're staying tuned in for that on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod, making it your first listen every single day. For your second listen, though, you got to go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link in the description below. You don't have to search for it. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck in your weekly matchups. We wish you good luck with your big time bets tonight, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.